Arthur's life felt like a faded photograph. Each Monday morning, the familiar knot in his stomach tightened, a physical manifestation of the dread that permeated his week. He worked as an accountant, a profession he'd fallen to more by inertia than by choice. The fluorescent lights of the office hummed a monotonous tune, reflecting off the polished grey cubicles, each one a miniature prison cell. His days were a blur of spreadsheets, numbers that lost their meaning long ago, and emails that demanded urgent attention but offered no fulfillment. He'd often catch his reflection in the dark office windows at dusk, a tired man with hollow eyes, wondering where the vibrant, curious boy he once was had gone. The thought would linger, a dull ache beneath his ribs, as he drove home through the choking rush-hour traffic, the city lights blurring into an indifferent mosaic. Weekends offered a brief reprieve, a chance to recharge, but the shadow of Monday always loomed, an inevitable return to a life that felt increasingly small and stifling. He yearned for something more, a spark, a purpose, but the feeling was abstract, a ghost he couldn't quite grasp. The weight of his unlived potential pressed down on him, a constant, low hum in the background of his consciousness. He'd tried distractions, new hobbies that quickly faded, online courses he never finished, even a brief, uninspired attempt at dating that only highlighted his own internal emptiness. One particularly dreary Saturday, the rain drumming a melancholic rhythm against his window, Arthur decided to tackle the cluttered attic. It was less a decision and more an impulse, a desperate need to physically move something, anything. In his stagnant life, dust motes danced in the single beam of light, filtering through a grimy window pane as he sifted through forgotten relics, old college textbooks, boxes of childhood toys, yearbooks filled with smiling faces he barely remembered. Deep within a stack of old literature, nestled between a worn copy of Moby Dick and a collection of Emerson's essays, he found it. A leather-bound journal, its pages yellowed with age, its spine cracked. He didn't remember owning it, not truly. It felt ancient, imbued with a quiet history. As he opened it, a folded piece of paper, thin and brittle, fluttered to the floor. It wasn't a page from the journal itself, but something tucked inside, almost as if it had been waiting for him. The paper was creased, the ink faded, but he could make out the elegant, looping script. It was his grandmother's handwriting. She had passed many years ago, a gentle soul who always saw more in him than he saw in himself. His heart gave a curious lurch. The note read, simply, Arthur, never forget the language of your soul. It speaks through your hands, not just your head. Look for the patterns others miss. The words resonated with a strange, immediate clarity. The language of your soul speaks through your hands, not just your head. Look for the patterns others miss. What did that even mean? His hands? He was an accountant. His hands were for typing, for calculators, for signing documents. But the note sparked a distant memory, a forgotten passion from his childhood. He had always loved building things, taking things apart and putting them back together, seeing the intricate connections. As a boy, he'd spent hours in his grandfather's workshop, fascinated by the smell of sawdust and the rhythmic clang of tools. He remembered the feeling of wood grain under his fingertips, the satisfaction of a perfectly fitted joint. He'd made small, simple things then. A wobbly birdhouse, a carved wooden boat that always capsized. Life, and the perceived need for a practical career, had slowly suffocated that joy. The note felt like a whispered secret from the past. A forgotten instruction. He thought about the phrase, look for the patterns others miss. In his accounting job, he did look for patterns, but they were numerical, rigid, emotionless. What if there were other patterns? Patterns in the natural world, in the way things fit together, in the inherent design of everything, he began to notice. On his usual, dreary commute, his eyes no longer glazed over the concrete landscape. He started seeing the intricate lattice of bare tree branches against the winter sky, the precise way raindrops clung to the car window, the structural integrity of an old brick building. He started visiting a local park on his lunch breaks, observing the way light filtered through leaves, the delicate geometry of a spider web, the erosion patterns on old rocks. It was a subtle shift, almost imperceptible at first, a quiet awakening of dormant senses. One afternoon, while walking through an antique fair, he stumbled upon a small, unassuming booth filled with old clocks. Not just any clocks, but intricate, complex timepieces, some dating back centuries. He was drawn to a particular grandfather clock, its wooden casing dark and rich, its gears exposed. He felt an inexplicable pull to it, a sense of recognition. The seller, an elderly woman with kind eyes, saw his interest. "Beautiful, isn't it?" she murmured. "A lost art, really. The precision, the patience required to make these. It's a form of meditation." He nodded, mesmerized. He found himself asking questions, not about the price, but about the mechanism, the craft. The woman, sensing his genuine curiosity, explained the escapement, the pendulums, the tiny, interlocking parts that worked in perfect harmony. It was a language he suddenly understood, a language of intricate design and purposeful function. He bought a small, broken mantel clock from her, not because he wanted a clock, but because he felt an overwhelming urge to take it apart, to understand its inner workings. He brought it home, carefully laid out his few basic tools, an old screwdriver, a pair of tweezers, and began. Hours melted away. He wasn't thinking about spreadsheets or deadlines. He was lost in the delicate dance of gears, the tiny screws, the almost poetic logic of its construction. He found a strange satisfaction in the quiet intensity of the task, in the methodical process of dismantling and then, with surprising clarity, beginning to He didn't fix it that night, but he felt something shift within him. A quiet click into place, like a perfectly aligned gear. The old clock became his quiet obsession. He spent evenings and weekends poring over books on horology, watching obscure documentaries, and eventually finding online forums dedicated to clock repair. He started with the broken mantel clock, then moved on to others he found at flea markets. Each one a new puzzle, a new lesson. The process was slow, painstaking, and often frustrating, but for the first time in years, he felt truly alive. He discovered a meticulousness he never knew he possessed, a profound patience, and an almost intuitive understanding of mechanical principles. The patterns others miss became clear to him, not just in timepieces, but in the world around him. In the elegant engineering of a simple door hinge, in the complex system of a blooming flower, in the silent interconnectedness of nature. His work at the accounting firm didn't magically disappear, but his perspective had fundamentally shifted. The fluorescent lights still hummed, but they no longer felt suffocating. He saw them as a temporary backdrop, not his entire reality. He began saving diligently, carefully planning, and eventually, with a quiet determination, he started taking classes on precision mechanics and traditional woodworking. It wasn't a sudden, dramatic leap. It was a gradual, internal blossoming. He started creating small, intricate wooden mechanisms, gears, and levers that moved with silent grace, simply for the joy of it. He wasn't making clocks yet, not professionally, but he was building, creating, using his hands in a way that resonated with the deepest part of him. One day, an old colleague from his accounting firm, noticing the subtle change in his demeanor, the quiet confidence that now radiated from him, asked him what he did with his evenings. Arthur, for the first time, spoke with genuine enthusiasm about his newfound passion, the intricate dance of gears, the satisfaction of bringing something broken back to life. His colleague, surprisingly, knew someone who ran a small, independent workshop specializing in antique clock restoration. A week later, Arthur found himself not in a cubicle, but surrounded by the scent of wood and oil, the rhythmic ticking of countless timepieces, learning from a master craftsman who saw the quiet fire in his eyes. He didn't quit his accounting job immediately. He transitioned slowly, allowing his passion to build a new foundation for his life. The dread of Monday mornings had vanished, replaced by a quiet eagerness, a sense of purpose that resonated deep within his bones. He realized that the note from his grandmother wasn't a mere instruction. It had simply reminded him of a truth. His soul already knew a calling that had patiently waited for him to remember the language of his own hands, to look for the intricate, beautiful patterns in the world and in himself. His life, once a faded photograph, was now a vibrant, ticking masterpiece, each moment a testament to a quiet, profound